Hello and welcome to the Paper 1 support for the 8-mark question. The 8-marker, the for and against. The easy way to remember how to do this one is start the question with an answer to what's being asked. So get straight to the point and give the examiner an answer. Next, explain 2 points for and 2 points against. Reach a conclusion at the end that shows which side you've chosen. Again, remember to use point, evidence and explain to do that. So, an example for an 8-marker. This question says, how far? So you've got to weigh that up. That's a very far, not very far, a little, not a lot. How far do you agree that the Greeks made more progress than people in the Middle Ages? It's this. So you're weighing up, were the Greeks better on a scale with the Middle Ages? Okay, so the best way to do this, as it's shown here, is to try to talk about 2 fors, 2 against. 2 reasons to say that the Greeks did make more progress than people in the Middle Ages, and then 2 to suggest that actually in the Middle Ages things weren't that bad and they did progress. Ideally, we really want to see a combination. So you don't just talk all Greeks at one point and then all Middle Ages. It would be nice to try and see you talk about both. So a nice quick straight away in, both time periods, we're comparing them straight away. Both time periods made progress. Both used new ideas, that's the point. Both had technology that allowed them to make new treatments. And both had individuals. Okay, so the main way to start this is to go straight in. The ancient Greeks were the most advanced because they introduced the 4 humours to the medical world. This was something that was also used during the Middle Ages and only adapted a little. So I've done a comparison here. Middle Ages, ancient Greeks straight away. I then expanded upon it. During the Middle Ages, they developed the sampling of bodily fluids to test the health of a patient. I could potentially go on more and talk a little bit further here about how this was developed. Primarily, though, the 4 humours was the Greek idea and the Middle Ages didn't really do anything with it. Another thing, next point, clearly said another thing, developed by the Greeks was the use of public health. Gymnasiums and saunas were used to keep the body clean. Although they were part of a temple complex, they were able to ensure citizens were not exposed to illness. I've linked it back to the question about progress in medicine. On the other hand, I'm showing a counterbalance. It was a rather poor system of public health in the Middle Ages. So I'm comparing again. Filth was allowed to gather and animals lived alongside people. The Middle Ages did see some improvement, so I'm now starting to talk in a positive light about the Middle Ages, which is contrary to what it says in the question. For example, surgical operations were improved as this was the time of warfare. So my point, my example or my evidence is there. My explanation comes at the end. These did happen in the Greek period, but not on the scale of the medieval period. So the surgical techniques, I'm saying, is definitely a positive. It finishes off with an area that saw little progress by the time in the Middle Ages, and then overall there's a conclusion that brings it all together.